going on, guys? Let me know where you're from. Oh, hopefully you can hear me okay. Y'all hear me? Let us know where you're chiming in from. What's up, Arnell? What's going on, brother? So, guys, if you just join in, this is just a impromptu. I do these on a weekly basis now, just answering basic questions about overages and surplus funds, about the industry, about the market, whatever you want to ask about, any of my programs, anything like that. So, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat wherever you're coming from. Let me know where you're from, and yeah, happy to help where I can. Happy to answer any questions that you may have about overages and even if it's just real estate in general, whatever you want to talk about, here to help where I can. So I am just, if I'm looking in this direction, I'm just looking at my other screen because I have two screens here, and I'm actually kind of checking out some of the latest reports that I've gotten from one of my virtual assistants, and looking to see what's going on in some of the markets right now. So, I'll share my screen real quick with you guys. So right now, guys, kind of the way my business is set up is, when I first started this business, obviously I was doing everything. If you're new to overages and surplus funds, the business is very simple, although it is difficult. But there's basically 5 steps, right? You got to create your leads, conduct research, contact your leads, contract your leads, and then file your claims or profit. So those are the 5 steps of the process. And when I first started doing this, I was doing all of that. Nowadays, I have folks that help me complete those steps. So like right now, what you're looking at is a spreadsheet of leads. This is just mortgage overages that was generated last week. Okay. And this is in a couple different counties. Well, 3 counties. Okay. And I'm just looking at this for the first time, so I'm not sure what we've got here, but let me see what we're dealing with here. All right, cool. So last week, between these 3 counties, there was about $4 million in surplus funds generated. And this is just from mortgage overages. This does not include tax sale overages. So that's pretty good. That's not bad. But then there's also, so what I do is these are the, just the individuals. Okay. And then if we find out that maybe some individuals have passed away, then we'll put them in a separate spreadsheet. We would refer to these as estate cases. Okay, so an estate case is basically where the homeowner has passed away. So there's another $500,000 owed to estates. And then it looks like we got a couple businesses, LLCs. All right, cool. So there's about almost 200,000 in businesses between those 3 counties. So not bad. Not bad for a week's worth of foreclosures. So that's kind of what's going on. And keep in mind, guys, that there are over 3,000 counties in the United States. Okay. All of those counties usually have at least 1 tax sale a year and multiple foreclosure sales going on. So there is a lot going on, basically. That's pretty wild. And you can kind of see, so this column K is the overage amount. And to be honest, this isn't a true representation of all of the overages being generated, because I've instructed my VAs to only make note of properties that create a certain amount of overage. So there's probably a lot more than 4.2 million actually in this county. We're not seeing the full picture because some of the smaller stuff I personally don't pursue. So there's something to also keep in mind. Arnell, I did get your email yesterday, brother. I wasn't sure about the affiliate refund. I need to look into that for you. I didn't get any sort of notification, so I'll check into that for you. So yeah, that's, the reason we separate the three. I started doing this recently as well, right? Because I try to, so I tell my students, go after the low hanging fruit, right? And when you're dealing directly with homeowners, it's going to be a little easier to get the claim submitted and all that good stuff and get paperwork signed. And so we just started doing this where you've basically got three types of cases, guys, with overages, or three types of entities that are owned or owed money, so to speak. The first is personal individuals. Okay. These are people that own their property in their own name. Okay. So you contact them directly. The second is estates, and an estate is when the homeowner has passed away. And so now you need to find out who their heirs are and who is entitled to those funds. And then the third type of entity is LLCs, businesses, corporations, companies that own real estate in their company name, and then they lose it to a tax sale or foreclosure, and now they're owed an overage. Okay. So that's kind of your three, main types of entities you're going to be dealing with or helping recover their overage or surplus: individuals, estates, corporations, businesses. So really interesting. Let's see what this county brought out. So here's three other counties. Looks like not as much. Yeah, see, these three counties only did 2.2 million last week. So lots going on. There's quite a bit of foreclosure activity going on, at least what we've seen and what we're tracking. Same with the tax sales. The amount of inventory that's being brought about, because we didn't have a lot of tax sales and foreclosures the last couple of years due to COVID. Now we're seeing all of that being sold currently, and that's generating quite a bit of overages for us. Cool. Anybody have any questions? There's a question. How do we get this fully automated and have customers calling us? People are charging $5,000 just to answer this, and I'm willing to pay, but not this much. I'm guessing you're talking about surplus funds mastery when you say that. I could be wrong, but so here's the answer for you. Sorry, it doesn't have your name. It just says LinkedIn user. So for some reason, YouTube, it'll give me their name, but Facebook, LinkedIn, it doesn't tell me. So here's the answer to that. How do you get this fully automated? Number one, guys, you have to go through the process yourself. You have to learn the steps of the business yourself. Don't believe the hype that you can do this business and have it fully outsourced from the beginning. I do not believe that is possible, and here is why. If you hire some virtual assistants or employees to do certain tasks for you in the business, right? But you have no experience yourself completing those tasks, how are you going to evaluate your employees and your virtual assistants? How are you going to evaluate whether they're doing a good job or not? Not only that, but how are you going to be able to train them to do the tasks that they need to do? So that's your first step. To fully automate it and have customers calling you, number one, you need to do a deal yourself, preferably 2, 3, whatever. Because then if you've done a deal yourself, now you can develop your specific processes, your specific systems to the market that you choose to work in. Because here's the thing, guys. The 5 steps are universal. But the execution of those steps is different in every single state. Okay. And it is also different for the type of case that you are working on. Okay. So if I am working tax overages in, let's say, Texas, my process of generating leads, of getting paperwork signed, submitting that paperwork is completely different than the process of, say, mortgage overages in Texas. Same state, different types of cases, different processes. So you need to have two separate processes to give to your VA or to your employee and be able to train them on those processes. Now, if you've never done a deal before and the people you're learning from have never done a deal before in that area, then you set yourself up for a lot of disappointment and a lot of lost money because you're going to pay someone trusting that they already know what they're doing. But if you don't know what you're doing, then how's that going to work out for you? Okay, so how do you get this fully automated? Number one, you get results for yourself. You get experience for yourself. You do a couple deals. And as you do those deals, develop your processes, your SOPs, which stands for standard operating procedures, so that then you can hand that off to somebody else. Okay. And that's the bottom line. So if someone is looking to jump in and have this automated from the very beginning, it's a pipe dream, in my opinion. I don't know, and maybe, you know what? Here's the thing, though, guys. Like, here's the thing. Like, I am not a very smart person, and maybe I've done things the long way or the hard way, but I just don't see how I could, without having the own experience, I don't see how I could train someone to do what I want them to do. And I don't see how I could provide them feedback to become better. The reason that I can have somebody create these lists for me, the reason that I can have my lead generation automated, have my research automated, is because I've done it myself. And I have the knowledge and the experience to pass that on to somebody else. And so that is your first step, is you need to get knowledge and experience so that you then can pass that on to somebody else. That is how you've automated. And if somebody is claiming that they can do it right from the get-go, you should probably ask them, what is their experience? How many surplus funds deals have they done? What states have they worked in? What types of deals have they done? Have they done tax sale overages, mortgage overages, unclaimed funds with the state? What is it? What is their experience? Because if you've got somebody promising you something that they've never done themselves, in my opinion, that's the blind leading the blind. And I don't know how you get good results from that. Okay. Does that make sense? Hopefully that answers the question. That's been my experience. I didn't start hiring people and bringing on people until I had done several deals myself. Okay. So that's the before automation, personal experience, personal knowledge. So that's the bottom line. Yes, I did share a testimonial recently of someone I helped save from foreclosure. Well, let me rephrase that. We delayed the foreclosure for her. We delayed the foreclosure auction. It was not a long-term solution, but the idea is that we help somebody. Okay, we help her. We don't charge anything for that. We help her for free, so that hopefully she can find a long-term solution to the problem and avoid the foreclosure altogether. If she can't, and it does go to foreclosure, then hopefully she will think of me first, because I have helped her without giving anything, without charging anything. And if there's a surplus from her property, then hopefully will be the ones that she thinks about. That's something that I'm experimenting with right now is, okay, can I help people that are facing foreclosure either postpone, delay, or get rid of the foreclosure altogether? In the effort to provide goodwill, and so that I become top of mind to people if they do go to foreclosure. So something I'm experimenting with right now. I'm also experimenting. This is going on a tangent, but guys, when you get into this business, you figure out that there are so many other ways to like make money in real estate and even just in overages. It's pretty insane. It's pretty wild, the opportunity that exists out there. Another problem that I'm trying to solve is, okay, how can I, if somebody's facing foreclosure or a tax sale, okay, I know that everyone that is in pre-foreclosure, or I know that everyone that's in tax delinquency who has an auction, they are being bombarded by real estate investors offering them to buy their house, which is all fine and good. Nothing wrong with that. Great lead source. But here is the thing. A lot of these people, they don't want to sell their house. They don't want to move. And so what I'm trying to think about is, how can I solve these people's problem and let them stay in the house while also making some sort of return or some sort of profit in the business? And that's something that I've been playing around with lately as well. So recently I just did a deal in the Las Vegas, Nevada area where a gentleman had some delinquent taxes. And he called me up. He says, I don't want my house to go to tax sale. I was like, okay, well, how much do you owe? So he tells me. And we structured a deal to where I will pay off his delinquent taxes, and then he will pay me back over the next 12 months with a predetermined amount. I'm not going to charge interest. I'm charging what's called a premium. It's just a predetermined amount of money. And the difference there is it doesn't accumulate like interest does. The difference is whether he pays it all back tomorrow or pays it back in 12 months, that premium amount is the same no matter what. And so that's kind of something, and I'm going to make a good return on the money that I put up to pay off the delinquent taxes. Okay. So that's something that I'm experimenting with right now. The worst case scenario is he doesn't pay me. And if that happens, well, what do I do? Well, in exchange for paying off the delinquent taxes, he executed a deed to my company. So my name, my company name, is on the deed. It is technically the owner of that property until he pays me back. And then I will give him the deed back. So that's so the worst case scenario, if they don't pay, is, well, I now own a house that's worth 10 times more than what I put up to pay off the delinquent taxes. So you got to just mitigate your risks in those. So there's a lot of things that we're playing around with right now, helping people pre-foreclosure and pre-tax sale. Let's see. Here's another question. When you're dealing with both companies and people, how do you get them to take their guards down when requiring a copy of their state ID to start the process over the phone? When you're dealing with both companies and people, how do you get them to take their guards down when requiring a copy of their state ID to start the process over the phone? If you are, I guess, I don't know if I understand correctly, but here's the thing. When we call someone on the initial contact, we're not trying to sign them up on the first call. That's not our objective. Okay. So if you're calling and it's your initial contact with that person, with that claimant, and then you're asking them to sign a contract, I liken it to this. It's like going on a date with someone and then asking them to marry you. It's too early for that. So what we do is we're just on an initial contact, we're just asking someone permission to send them more information so that we can continue to have conversations down the road and then get the paperwork signed later on and get their ID or whatever, So I guess the answer to your question is I'm not asking for their ID on the first call. It's too early for that. I'm just asking for permission to send them more information. Am I still only working 30 hours a week? So it depends. In my overage business or in helping people learn overages. So I'll be honest with you guys, I spend more time now helping people learn the business than I do in the actual overage business. But as far as overages go, actual overage deals, probably about 10 to 20 hours right now. And that's because I have, the lead gen is automated, the research is automated. I have someone right now that's doing calls for me as well. And so a lot of those things that I've done on my own, I have developed the systems and the processes based on my experience and handed them off to someone else. So no, I'm not working 30 hours a week in my actual overage business. Right now, I'm working less than that. More of my time now is spent helping people and helping them with their deals. So. How do you go about acquiring the deed under power before it's recorded? Are you talking about the deed from the foreclosure sale or from the tax sale? I'm not sure I understand that question. How do you go about acquiring the deed under power before it's recorded? Before it's recorded. I'm not sure I understand the question, but if you're asking about the deed from the foreclosure or tax sale so that you can confirm what a property sold for, I don't know how you would acquire that before it's recorded, unless you asked the entity that conducted the foreclosure sale or the tax sale for a copy of that before it was recorded. You could do that. They could say no or yes. Just you never know until you ask. Yes, sir. Someone asked, are those systems in the course? I'm assuming you're asking about working with virtual assistants and things like that. So yeah, guys, I do have a module that talks about how I personally use virtual assistants in my business. Okay. So, yeah, there are some folks out there that I think are charging $5,000 to, basically teach you how to use virtual assistants. I include that in my digital course. So you can see everything you get, you can see right here. You can see the entire curriculum here. So in section 8, I believe is where it is. So you've got how to use virtual assistants to grow your business right here. Okay. So yeah, that's included in there. Here's some other modules, working with virtual assistants, things like that. So you can do your due diligence there, guys. If you're brand new to Overages too, you can check out this free training at overagesyndicate.com. Yeah, you got to put in your email, but it is what it is. You can always unsubscribe. So there's a series of videos here. You can go through these videos and kind of get an idea. Here's the 5-step process that I mentioned in the beginning. Okay. And then this last video is where you can it just covers what's included in the program. Okay. So there's all that for you. A couple resources for you. I'll post them here in the link and you can go check them out when you have time. So that first link is the free training. The second link is the page to the course where you can see what is included in the program. Okay. So let's see, requiring the state ID on the second call dealing with tax overages. So guys, whenever you ask somebody for something, so in this case, an ID, right? You're asking for their state ID. Explain to them why you are asking for that. And I found that helps. Here's the thing. Answer the objection before the objection is ever brought up. And so if you just ask somebody for their ID, then it raises an objection. It's like, oh, well, what do you want my ID for? Is this some sort of ID theft scam or something? Like red lights, right? Instead, say, could I get your ID so I can verify your signature and verify that we have the right person who's owed the money? Okay. Explain why you're asking for something whenever you ask for it, so that you can resolve the objection before it's even brought up. Does that make sense? So if I ask for someone's ID, whether I'm talking live or via email or via letter, I explain why I want their ID. So in my letter, if I'm writing a letter or an email and I say, please provide a copy of your ID so that we can verify we have the right person and just verify your signature. So whenever you ask for something, give them a reason why you're asking for it. Oh, someone asked, so you're asking about the deed in that example I gave with the homeowner paying off their delinquent taxes? Well, the deed is between you and them. So you're drafting that, or you're having your attorney draft. So you shouldn't need a copy. You should have the original deed if that's what you're doing. Let's see. Hey, Nick, is there a 2-year limit before the Mo's go back to the state in Louisiana? That's a good question, Keith. I'm not sure off the top of my head. I'll be honest, I haven't done a lot in Louisiana, so I'm not sure what the limit is, if there is any. How much is the training? The digital course is $2,000. Probably be more in the future. Nick, what should I do if the trustee won't give me the info about the sale? Yeah, great question. Lots of ways. So you can, if the trustee won't give me the info personally, number one, I'll have my attorney get the info for me, or have the claimant get the info you need. So that's one reason why you should definitely be using attorneys, so that you can get the info that you need. If they straight up just won't, then you need to be in touch with the homeowner. There's things called third-party authorization forms that can help. There's a copy of one in section 5 of the course if you need help with that, or if you need a copy of one to use. Those can be beneficial. Letters of direction can be beneficial that are signed by the claimant authorizing you to receive information on their behalf. That's also in section 5 if you want to download a copy of that. So there's multiple ways to get the info from the trustee, either getting permission from the claimant or having the claimant get the info that you need directly, or having the attorney that you work with get the info. Lots of different ways around that issue. But those are a few. Yeah, thank you so much. I hope the videos are somewhat helpful for you guys. So what's up, David? Good to see you, man. Fellow CO. Glad you're not a CO anymore. Congrats getting out of there. Colorado's a hot real estate market, so that's probably a good place to be as a realtor. Brian, that was not a deed flip. So because in a deed flip, you're selling the property. You're selling the deed to somebody else. And that doesn't solve the homeowner's problem of wanting to stay in their property. I'm holding the deed. And in exchange for doing so and for paying off the taxes, I'm making a return on my money. So that strategy that I explained in the Las Vegas deal, it's not a deed flip because you're not selling it. You're not selling the deed to someone else. You're holding on to it, allowing the homeowner to stay in the property, and you give them a timeline to pay you back plus a predetermined amount of money on top of what you put into the deal. So that strategy requires some money. So like in the one that I gave you, the Las Vegas deal, I had to put up $11,500 and something to pay off the delinquent taxes. But I will get back over $15,000 in 12 months time, which is, it's a long game, right? That's not a strategy for income. That's a strategy to grow investments, basically. So that I wouldn't recommend that to anyone who's looking for income today. I would say focus on actually doing overages. So let's see. Here's a good question. When you first started doing overages, what did you find was the most difficult part of the whole business? For me, it was cold calling and just reaching out to homeowners. That was the most difficult part for me because I am a naturally introverted person. I'm not an extrovert by any means. If you see me out and about, or at an event or a party or something, I'm like the quiet guy in the back that just doesn't say much. That's who I am. And so being able to, get on the phone with folks and talk to them, that was very difficult for me in the beginning. The other thing was consistency, just being consistent at contacting people. That was very difficult as well, because obviously, I worked at the prison as a corrections officer, and my schedule was very up and down. So I worked 12-hour graveyard shifts from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. And that would rotate every 3 or 4 days. So I'd have 3 or 4 days on, 3 or 4 days off. And so the consistency was very hard to nail down. But that's what's required in this business. To see consistent results, you have to put in consistent action. And if that's just 30 minutes a day, so be it. If it's an hour a day, so be it. That's better. An hour a day or 30 minutes a day is better than one person that does maybe 5 hours one week, 2 hours the next, and just is all over the board. So those were the two biggest things that were difficult for me, was the contacting people and the consistency, developing the consistency. Cool. Awesome, guys. Any other questions or anything? Am I still sharing my screen? Oh, yes. Whoops. So what information am I sending after the first call? It depends on the area, depends on the state. So there's an outline of what I like to say. You can download my letter in section 5, but it depends on the area. Sometimes it's a fee agreement, sometimes it's at a bare minimum the fee agreement, but depending on the state it's in, it could be more or less. So but yes, it's basically what I do in the initial contact. Let them know who we are, how we can help them. I invite them to do due diligence on my company, so I'll give them my website address, and just give them a little spiel about how we can help them, what are some of the benefits, and use it as an opportunity to educate them, and then also send any paperwork that they may need to review in order to make a decision. So that's what I send out to them. But it's dependent on the state as well, and the county and all that good stuff. Because that's the other thing, guys. Like, your paperwork is going to vary depending, again, on the type of deal you're doing and where you're doing it. Okay. Great question. In my opinion, do I ever see this business getting saturated? There's already competition in this business, guys. There's absolutely competition in this business. Now, my perspective is a little different than most, I guess, because of my journey so far. So when I first started, when I was at the prison, and I just did the math one day and was like, okay, I need to find something else, because if I stay here, the income is not going to get me where I want to go. Like, I just knew it wasn't going to work. So I started going to YouTube, and I had heard somewhere that most millionaires were made in real estate, right? So I start looking at real estate. And so I didn't start out in overages. I started out doing something called wholesaling real estate. Okay. So I did some deals doing that. Took a course, bought a $1,500 course on a credit card, and went through the course and had some success wholesaling real estate. Had a great mentor. His name was Jerry Norton. And then got the old shiny object syndrome, found a webinar talking about tax sale overages. So I started doing that and bought that course, went through that. And here's what I found. And then I also got my real estate license. And so my journey's been kind of unique in the fact that when I was wholesaling real estate, I found that I was probably competing with, 100 to 150 other investors in my area. When I got my real estate license, when I became a realtor, I then learned that there's like over 1,000 realtors in my state of Utah. And I was like, okay, so I'm competing with 1,000 other people. When I got into overages, I found that there was still competition, but there was probably maybe 10 to 20 people doing overages. And I was like, all right, so which one of those three would I prefer to compete in? The big pool or the small pool? And so that's what I have found with overages is there are not a lot of people that stick with it for a very long time. Now, why is that? I think this is a very mentally challenging business because you don't see a lot of results immediately. And what I mean by that is, like, let's say you make some phone calls today, or you send out some letters today, and you get zero response. Say you don't connect with anyone today. And that can cause a lot of doubt and a lot of discouragement for people, because we live in a society where we want instantaneous results. But not only that, when we do get a deal signed and we submit that claim, we're waiting several months for that check to come, right? We're waiting for the county or the court or whoever has the money to send us our check. And unfortunately, they don't work at a very fast pace. And so I think the having to wait for that long for the deal to pay out can be frustrating for folks. And so here's what happens. People get into the business, they maybe do a few deals, and then they see something else that looks better or looks more interesting or more sexy or pays out faster, and they stop and they go do something else. And so there's people coming in, people coming out. Is there competition? Absolutely, there's competition. But from my perspective, there's less competition here than in other niches and other industries. Will that always be the same? I don't know. I'm sure competition will increase as more people become aware and technology gets better. It's actually quite incredible. Just, the technology we have now to be able to do complete tasks is so much better than it was just 5 years ago. It's crazy. Do I ever think it'll be saturated? The only way this business would become saturated is if people stop dying, people stop getting divorced, and people quit having disasters, medical issues, financial issues, natural disasters. If those three things stop, then that would kill this business, because those are the things that cause foreclosures and tax sales. And so as long as we have tax sales and foreclosures, and we have investors buying properties at auctions, we will always have overages, in my opinion. So there will always be a demand. This business will always exist, unless, like I've mentioned already, unless people stop dying, people quit getting divorced, and disasters quit happening in the country to individuals. So the saturation thing, it could absolutely happen. The other thing too is competition, in my mind, is a good thing. If multiple people are doing something, then that means it works for multiple people. If I hear of a business and there's only one or two people doing it, then I would ask myself, why is there not more people doing it? What is the issue? Why does it only work for one or two people? Is it because it's a super small market? Is it because there's not enough leads to go around? Like, what's the issue at hand? But when you find something that has competition, then that is evidence and proof that it works for multiple people. So fear not competition, embrace it. All right, cool, guys. Any other questions before we log off for the day? I like that. Competition will actually be the counties themselves. In some of them, yeah. In some places, the counties are difficult to deal with and a pain in the butt. And in a way, you are competing with some of them for sure. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that. I hope you've been enjoying the course. Hope it's helping. What's your average yearly income on the strategy you use? So I was actually looking at this just the other day. So as of right now, I'm at 103,000 for the year in 2022. These are actual overage deals. This is not courses or anything like that. So that's my income right now. These are some of the cases that have been going on and the breakdowns. Okay. So my best every year in overages was in the 300,000 range. Okay. If we stick with this, it's looking like I'll do about 200 and something from overage deals. So, anywhere between 100 and 300K for me personally. I've got students who do this very part-time, who are retired, and they do this on a very part-time basis. They maybe make an extra 40, 50K a year. Okay. But for me personally, 1 to 300,000 a year. So. Do you mind going over the joint venture program quickly? Yeah, for sure, guys. That's a good question. And if you haven't started, no worries. But I highly recommend you get started as quickly as possible. Just dedicate 30 minutes, 1 hour a day. You'll get through it. Okay. So with my program, I do joint venture with my students. Okay. How it works is the student's responsibility is to find and make contact with the claimant. Once the claimant says they are interested in potentially moving forward or receiving more information, my team steps in. We draft all of the paperwork for you. So, you don't have to worry about if you're using the right forms. We'll do all that for you. We can email it to the client. We can send it via DocuSign, get it signed. Once it's signed, we file the claim. So we handle all of the attorney. We pay all of the attorney expenses. So if you have any worries about having to pay for an attorney, you can partner on your first deal or two, and you don't have that expense. I take care of that expense. And then we do the disbursements to the client and to the JV partner and to us. And then that's kind of how we split it up. We just do a 50-50 of the net profit. And that's how it works. Pretty straightforward. What else can I say about the JV joint venture program? It's pretty much it, guys. I think it's really good. There's only 2 programs out there that actually do partner with their students. I think ours is the highest paying one, personally. There's been a lot of questions about asking us if someone can just do the research and submit leads. There may be something like that in the future rolling out. We'll see. Seems like there's a demand for that. But yeah, that's how we partner with folks. And then there's a criteria as well. And so the idea is, I don't really care how much the overage is. What I care about is what is going to be the net profit. And so the way I've set it up is, if we do a deal, I want my joint venture partners to net at least 4 to 5K per deal. That's what I want you to net on the minimum as a joint venture partner. Okay. I've had many that have netted more than that. And so that's why there's a very specific criteria to the deals that you can submit as a joint venture partner. And the reason for that criteria is so that it's beneficial and profitable for you and for me. It's got to be a win-win. If it's not a win-win, then we don't do the deal, unfortunately. Okay. So, but there's also, this is also really important, guys. So in section 7, if you are in the course already, make sure you go to the first video in section 7. Okay. This document right here. Oops. Oh, where'd it go? What's up, guys? So there's joint venture agreement. You can check that out, whatever. Oh, here it is right here. This deal submission form. Okay. So this is this will guide you, and you can fill this out, or you can copy and paste the information, send it in an email, and that's when we can take over. So everything's done email. We CC the joint venture partner on all our communications with the client, so you know what's happening, and that's how we work the joint venture program. Okay. Guys, welcome to this video. How often do you do updates on the course? Quite often, actually. That's one thing that I have come to realize is like a course, at least a good course, is actually it's not a one and done thing, especially in this business. As we learn new things and as new things roll out, new laws or anything, new updates, I will add that to the course. And so I'm constantly adding new material to the program, to the course, to update my students. And because of that, I have no idea how much content is in there now. It's a lot, guys. So I am constantly adding to the course as I learn new things and learn about new states and all that good stuff. So when I learn about it, I pass it on to you. And when there's an update, that's just included. There's no additional charge for that. Okay. So if there's an update added to the course, you get that. Absolutely, yes. Overage income also includes joint venture income for sure. I'm going to put a cap on how many JVs and mentees I take on. That's actually a really good question. I have considered that. I've considered closing down the program and just having it open for a certain period of time, maybe on a monthly basis. I haven't experimented with it yet, but there's definitely a potential for that. But I don't have I haven't made a concrete decision on if I'm ever going to cap or, only make it available for a limited amount of people or a limited amount of time. But it's an idea that I have considered for sure. Make that first call. That's the hardest thing. Just make the first call. It gets easier as time goes on. But you just got to make that first one. Sounds like a conflict of interest. What sounds like a conflict of interest? Partnering with people? Partnering with students? I suppose it could be. I mean, I guess it would be easier not to partner with people, because then if you sell someone a course and you don't partner with them, what interest do you have that they succeed? Just my opinion. But if I partner with my students, then it's also in my best interest that they succeed at the deal, right? So, not sure what conflict of interest you're referring to. Do I plan on doing bankruptcy overages anytime soon? No, I don't. Honestly, guys, I'm aware of bankruptcy overages, but I personally don't have much experience in that. And so that's not something that I teach. There is a module though, okay, right here, Introduction to Bankruptcy Funds. That's included in the course, and I refer you to an expert in that space. She's really awesome. She's really great. You'll learn a lot from her. And so instead of teaching you something that I don't personally have experience in, I just refer you to someone who does have experience and knowledge in that. Okay. So I probably won't add anything else when it comes to bankruptcy, unless I get involved in some actual bankruptcy deals personally. And if I get that experience, then I could add something to the course. Yeah, guys, there is competition in the business for sure. Compared to what, though? So I don't know if you were here when I talked about when I was a realtor and wholesaling real estate and all that good stuff. But if not, maybe click back through the replay and check that. Competitive compared to what? Absolutely, there's competition. If you guys are looking for a business with zero competition, don't get into overages and don't get into any business, period. I don't know of any really successful businesses that don't have any competition. Because if there was no competition, that means the model doesn't work for multiple people. So competition is part of the game, guys. I mean, I don't think there's a way around competition. But like, here's the thing. Like I mentioned before, I would rather compete with 10 to 20 people in overages in my market versus 1,000 realtors or 100 real estate investors. That's just me personally. Compared to talking about the market being saturated compared to before. Before when exactly? I'll say this, guys. I think there is more people doing this because, you know, there's more education out there about it. There's more information available online. And maybe that's been my fault for sharing my story. But here's the thing, guys. I have met people that have done this business way back in like the 80s. And so that tells me this business has been around for a very long time. It's just we have more access to information and more technology that it makes it more well known or easier to learn about nowadays. Like I'll say this. There is more information available about the business now than there was 7 years ago when I got started. Absolutely, for sure. You know, 7 years ago, there was maybe 1 or 2 courses about the business that I'm aware of. And there was nothing on YouTube. Now there's a lot of info. Now, all of my YouTube stuff, there's no how-to on the YouTube. Like I don't teach anything on how-to on YouTube. But there's definitely more info available for folks to learn about. Oh, I see. Oh, conflict of interest with the county. Oh, for sure, guys. Absolutely, there's a conflict of interest with the county. Absolutely. Like, here's the thing. Like, let's take Texas as an example. So in Texas, for tax sale overages, you've got 2 years to claim the funds from the sale date. If the claimant doesn't claim those funds within 2 years, that money goes to, I believe, the Texas General School Fund or the school fund for that county. And the county now can use that money for whatever they want. So I guess at least it goes to a good cause, right? But that does absolutely 100% create a conflict of interest. Because if the county knows that if the money goes unclaimed and they're going to get to use that money, absolutely, they are not going to work very hard to try to notify the claimant that, hey, they have money owed to them. Why would they? It's not in their best interest. And that creates a conflict of interest, but it also creates an opportunity for us to be able to locate the individuals who don't know about the money and help them recover those funds and be compensated for doing so. So yeah, there's absolutely conflict of interest with the counties and the claimants, because it's not in their financial interest to let people know they have money owed to them. Or like New Jersey. New Jersey is a great example. If you can go to Google, type in surplus fund scams, and you'll find an article from the state of New Jersey talking about how people like us are scammers. But here's what New Jersey doesn't tell you. They don't tell you how much interest they're making on other people's money on a monthly basis. It's thousands of dollars, millions of dollars a year that New Jersey is making by just holding on to other people's money in an interest-bearing account, and they pocket that interest. Like it's just crazy. So, but it creates opportunity. So it is what it is. Awesome. What's this? Cook County will be holding a phone bankathon. Event is Wednesday, June 15th. Cook County will help homeowners find refunds, apply for property tax exemptions, and avoid the tax sale. Interesting. That's cool. I believe Illinois is a tax lien state, if I remember correctly. All right. Cool, guys. Appreciate y'all hopping on. I hope you have a great Monday and a great week. I put those links in there for you if you want to check out those free trainings. If you're newer to the business, you can check those out. If you want more info on the program, you can check that out as well. Should be links in the chat. So I think there's a replay. I think it automatically uploads to YouTube. At least it has in the past. So feel free to check it out on the YouTube. Yes, I have done deals in California. California has a ton of opportunity, a ton of overages, because the property values there are insane. There is quite a bit of competition in California. I will say that it seems to be one of the more heavier states when it comes to competition, because I know you were asking about that earlier. With the tax sale overages, I believe there is less because of the waiting period. So with California, you've got 12 months to file a claim from when the tax deed is recorded, but the county is not going to start reviewing claims until the 12 months is up. And then once the 12 months is up, then they start their review process, and their review process can be very lengthy. We're talking several months. I just had a deal pay out this year where we had filed in the fall of 2020, and it just paid out the spring of this year. So it was a long wait. And I think because of that, a lot of people shy away from the California tax sale overages, but there's some good amounts there for sure. So yes, there are payment plans. Check out the link above, school.overagecourse.com. A couple different options for you guys. As well as financing. If you go to that other one, the overage syndicate link, there's some financing links there too. All right, guys. Appreciate you. We'll see you later. Have a good one.